All right. Glorious Goodwood is officially done. 5 days of some unbelievable racing. A future superstar, absolute chaos in the Goodwood Cup. A couple of huge surprises, and one ownership group that pretty much bought the festival. So here are my biggest takeaways from Goodwood. So let's start with the biggest winner. And for me, it has to be Bo Echo. Forget just winning the Sussex Stakes. You know, this horse has now won the 2,000 Guineas. He's won the St. James Palace. And now the Sussex Stakes. Still unbeaten. Let's remember that. Still unbeaten. Every time they ask him a question, he answers it. And so we have to really start to ask some questions now. Now, look, I'm not saying he's absolutely not, right? But there's whispers. There's people whispering that name. There's some people that are comparing both these two amazing horses. Now, for me, I can't say that. I mean, if you look back at races, we can't really start to make those comparisons now. For me, but I'm not mad at it. Not mad at it at all. I can't wait to see where Bo Echo goes next. So huge congratulations to the connections there. For me, the biggest story. Now, what would the biggest story be? What would be the biggest story? Well, for me, I don't think it's actually a horse. I think the biggest story needs to be Billy Loughnan. Look, 20 years old. On that race, calm under pressure. You know, riding like he's been doing this for 20 years. Horse racing desperately needs young stars that people can get behind. Personalities, characters, people that casual fans can recognize. And I genuinely think that Billy is becoming exactly that. So huge shout out to Billy. Billy the Kid, my guy. This feels like the beginning. Not a peak at all. Not a peak at all. So huge shout out to Billy the Kid. All right, so biggest upset. What would be the biggest upset if I was to look back at Goodwood? Biggest upset for me, it definitely has to be Sham beating Talk of New York. You know, coming into the race, everyone was talking about Talk of New York. Future Group 1 horse, massive reputation, big expectations, you know. And Sham just turned up. Sham turned up and completely ignored the script. And that's why we love horse racing. That's what we love horse racing. Horses don't read headlines, you know. They don't know who's favorite. They don't know who's expected to win, you know. They just race. They just race, man. And every now and then, they remind us why the sport is so addictive. You know, talent, we hope that talent always kind of shines through. And Sham did that. So that is my upset of the week. So now ride of the week. You know, there was some really good rides. So we had Kaya, we had Billy, but you know what, for me, and Dylan as well, but you know, for me, it has to be Ryan Moore. Has to be Ryan Moore. And if you only watched the replay, you probably thought comfortable winner, you know. But it wasn't. It wasn't. During the cup, there was a loose horse running around the track. You know, and now if you've never worked with horses, you might think, all right, so what? But you gotta understand, like, horses are prey animals. You know, they're constantly looking around and reacting to movement and reading what's happening around them. You know, that is their superpower, but they're also prey animals. And a loose horse can completely throw them off. Completely. And it can make them back off or, you know, or pull harder or lose focus or waste loads of energy, you know. And Ryan Moore somehow kept Scandinavia completely relaxed, you know. Didn't panic, didn't chase the race, just trusted the horse and waited. You know, that's an elite, experienced horseman. and jockey. And you even when it mattered, like when it mattered, he asked the question, and the horse absolutely exploded. And that's what separates jockeys, great jockeys from good jockeys. I'd say they solve problems, without making it look like there was ever really a problem. Because maybe for the casual, just thought, even if you heard of Ryan Moore, you just think, oh, a great jockey had a great ride. We move on. But no, there's nuances to a lot of this, and that's why we love horse racing. So my trainer of the week. Now, I had to really think about this because I've already done a trainer of the week, but for me, it has to stay with, once I got the news early this morning, it has to be James Owen. Has to be James Owen. Has to be. Week after week, winners, improving horses, different types of horses, different tracks, different distances. He's just quietly putting together another great season. I mean, one of the best seasons in British racing at the moment. Today marked, or yesterday, 100 wins. 100 wins this season. Can't beat that. That's a huge shout out to James Owen and everybody down there at the racing yard there. My hot take is, look, Wathan Racing won 7 races at Goodwood. 7. Incredible achievement. Massive congratulations to everyone involved. But here's my question. Is this actually good for racing? Look, don't get me wrong. Every sport needs successful owners investing millions. That's brilliant. That's first of all, I'm a huge champion of that. I'm just a huge champion of it. But do we also need more people winning? More stories, more competition, more owners believing, having the dream, younger triers and younger bloodstock enthusiasts having a go. Look, we hope that could be some of us one day, right? Because if one ownership operation starts dominating every major meeting, is that inspiring? Or does it make the mountain look even bigger for everyone else? I generally love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments, because I can see both sides. I think big money in is always a blessing. But I don't think it's up to them to have to create the balance. I think it's up to everyone else. That's my 2 cents. Anyway, that's my Goodwood recap. Let me know, what was your biggest story of the week at Goodwood? Who was your horse of the week? Who gave the ride of the week? Let me know. And your hot take. I want to even know your hot takes. Does anybody want to chime in on Ocean and Stewart's inquiry? Let me know. And if you enjoyed this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of content we're going to keep bringing you. So until next time, welcome. Make yourself at home to our world of horse racing, pulling the race card. Peace.